Hello, sweet honeybees. Welcome to the Electric Honey Pot, where energy is the nectar of life. My name is Autumn, and this whole project is about the human experience, the good, the bad, the ugly, and all of the magic that happens in between. I wanted to take some time to talk about what happened to my mother, Karen Brown. My mom was murdered back in August of 2022, just a couple of days after her birthday, by her abusive boyfriend, Dennis Wallace. What happened to her goes a lot deeper than just domestic violence. The more that I reflect on my life during my healing journey, and the more that I reflect on what happened to my mom, the more that I understand and realize that what killed my mom is generational trauma. Trauma within our narcissistic family system. And then, of course, trauma within Dennis's family system as well, because he is the way he is for a reason. Now, that's not justification for what he did, and he should be held accountable for what he did. But I can find some compassion and empathy for him by understanding that hurt people hurt people. My mom and Dennis both were hurt people caught up in a repeating cycle of suffering until it escalated to what it did. If we want to improve the issue of domestic violence, abuse, and other crimes within our society, then we have to start looking at the root causes of these behaviors and not just arresting and punishing people after the fact, because all that is a Band-Aid on the problem, which the people in charge don't really care about fixing the broken system because they make money off of our trauma. They make money off of criminals being arrested. I mean, the prison system is essentially modern day slavery. I don't want to get into all that though, because that is not what this episode is about. I know that there are many families that can relate to the things that I want to talk about. And I'm a firm believer that in order to heal and fix problems, we have to be able to talk about these problems. Staying silent about the issues does nothing but keep them in the dark to where they never get the chance to be healed. We have to shine light on difficult subjects and difficult experiences in order to work through healing it. My family has been broken and hurting my entire life. It didn't start with the murder of my mom, and it definitely has not ended with her murder. No one in the family wants to talk about that, though. They don't want to admit that there's any kind of problem within our family. I already know that they're going to think and talk badly about me for making this episode. And you know what? I don't care. I don't care anymore what they have to say about me, because I know who I am as a person, and their projections and the lies and the manipulation has nothing to do with me. I see through the false reality that has been built upon lies and manipulation within my family. And because of that, I am the bad guy. I have become the scapegoat, the black sheep of my family, because I am willing to have these difficult conversations and I see the problems. My mom's siblings have made her tragic story all about them. They have painted themselves as the main victims within the situation, completely ignoring what led my mom to being with an abusive man in the first place, completely ignoring the suffering of her daughters, my sister, and myself. In fact, my sister and I have become the scapegoats of the family. We have even been accused of being involved in our mom's murder. We've been called selfish. We've been called cold-hearted and heartless, all because we decided to distance ourselves from the family in order to try to heal. My aunt and my uncle want to virtue signal all about justice for what Dennis did. Meanwhile, they're lying about their own behaviors and how they have stolen from my mom, used this opportunity of her death in order to make themselves wealthier, continuing to victimize her, even in death. But then they have the nerve to talk about how much they loved her. The family rage within my family has not only been directed towards the man that did the deed, but it has been directed towards my sister and I, especially towards me, because I fall into the category of the truth teller. This is a role within a narcissistic family system. It is the individual that sees through the masks and does not tolerate it. And so the truth teller often becomes the scapegoat of the family, being blamed for all of the problems because they expose the problems within the family. By standing up for myself and for others, I have become the villain in my family's story because it threatens their egos. It threatens the lies that they have built their lives upon. It threatens everything that they were taught to believe. And therefore, I am the bad guy because they are unable to reflect on their own behavior and accept any kind of accountability for anything that they do. You never know what is going on within a family behind the scenes, especially in a narcissistic family system, because they put on these masks and they seem like happy people when behind the scenes it is a giant dumpster fire within the family. They put on masks to hide the sickness and the dysfunction that is happening within the family. They pick specific family members to be the scapegoat, to blame, shame, and guilt for all of the problems, rather than acknowledging their roles in anything that they've done and having any kind of accountability. Often they pick family members that are openly displaying the sickness within the family. So family members that may have mental health due to the trauma that they are enduring within the family. That was me from a very early age. All the family problems were blamed on me because I was openly mentally ill. I've become the easy target because I vocalize the problems and I have been vocal about my mental health struggles. The family never stops to reflect on why it was that my mom felt she had to be in an abusive relationship, why she felt like she deserved a man like that. And relationship dynamics are learned from our parents. I mean, I witnessed my mom in abusive relationships throughout my life. And because of this, I was in abusive relationships throughout my life. I thought it was normal. It was normalized within my family. My grandfather was an angry man. He had a short temper. He yelled a lot and he got angry really easily. He was also very controlling when it came to money and finances. He was very miserly. He also did a lot of things in secrecy. You know, it was his business, nobody else's business. There was a lot of secrets going on. And I also grew up in a very strict religious family. My mom did. My grandparents were extremely devout First Church of Christ Christians. And, you know, women are subservient to men and men come before women. My grandfather was even asked to step down as an elder of the church when my mom divorced my dad, to kind of put into perspective the toxicity and the blame that happened within the church and our family. My mom didn't talk too much about her childhood, what it was like growing up with my grandparents. I can say from my own personal experiences, though, my grandfather liked to threaten with the leather belt. My papa also hit me once as an adult, open palm on the back, so hard that by the time I got home to my house about 10 minutes later, I still had a handprint on my back. I had called my mom crying hysterically after I left their house, and my mom just broke down into tears, telling me she was sorry that I experienced that. That she couldn't protect me from it. And so it really sounded like this was something that she had experienced too, because she totally believed me. But then she told me that she was going to talk to Pawpaw about it, and she called him. And after that, she called me back and was making up all kinds of excuses for him. And it was like a complete 180 from the previous phone call where she believed me and she supported me. And all of this lines up with my own personal experiences of narcissistic abuse and how narcissists operate, how they lie and manipulate the narrative in order to turn people against their victim or to make the victims question their own reality and their own experiences. My mom had a tendency to date men with anger issues. She claimed that my dad had tried to kill her after the truck that she was driving, which was his baby, had issues with the brake system, and she crashed and she was in the hospital. It was a really bad accident. It did almost kill her. Even if my dad didn't do this, just the fact that my mom was so suspicious of my dad, just it's hypervigilance, which is a symptom of CPTSD. The divorce with my dad was also very, very ugly. I was about 4 years old, and I have memories of my dad's last night at the house. My mom coming home from church, I'm sitting on the couch with my dad. My mom yelling at my dad as he's like recording her on a tape recorder to try to make her seem like the crazy one. And my mom is accusing him of touching me. And my mom ends up calling my grandparents, and my Nana and my Pawpaw, who live down the road, show up. And then my Nana took me outside, and I could just hear my mom, my Pawpaw, and my dad all screaming at each other inside the house while I was with my Nana. After the divorce, one of my mom's first boyfriends was also abusive. I remember watching Small Soldiers in the living room one night, and I just started hearing my mom and this man, I believe his name was Tony, yelling at each other. And then all of a sudden, I start hearing glass breaking. It turns out Tony was throwing plates at my mom during an argument. And my sister took me outside, and we walked over to the neighbor's house to love on the cows while all of this was going on, to get me away from that, because my sister is 8.5 years older than I am. The healthiest relationship that my mom had was with my stepdad, but even that relationship had its issues. You know, my stepsister ended up leaving as soon as she turned 18 because she couldn't stand my mom. They would get in arguments all the time. My mom and my sister would get in arguments all the time, lots of yelling. And my mom also became the caretaker to my stepdad after he had an industrial air unit fall on his foot and his leg slowly died. During all of this, I ended up being neglected. I spent a lot of my time alone. I was a very imaginative kid. I would talk to myself. I would make my stuffed animals and my little Hot Wheels cars and my Bratz dolls all talk to each other. I would sometimes sleep outside on my trampoline. I spent a lot of time by myself with my imaginary friends. Because I just kind of fell through the cracks within the family, I got groomed at the age of 11, and as I got older and I was dealing with this trauma, like the trust between my mom and I had been broken because my mom didn't believe me about an argument that I had with my dad one night and tricked me into going to a hospital. So I had my first hospitalization at the age of 12, which completely shattered my trust in my mom. And so as I got older, I took on the role of the rebel within the family, and I became extremely self-destructive and harmed myself through, substance abuse, actual self-harm, lots of maladaptive coping behaviors because I didn't have anyone in my family to turn to. I didn't feel safe. And all of the issues within my family that had contributed to the feelings that I had were all painted as being normal family functions when they weren't. My family just deemed me sick and broken. My grandparents even had the church congregation praying for my sickness. They never took any kind of consideration into my upbringing and how my upbringing contributed to the mental problems that I was displaying. It's easier to, in a narcissistic family unit, it is easier to blame a child that is openly displaying the sickness within the family than it is for adults to face the truth of what is going on and to take any kind of accountability for the role that they have played in creating an unhealthy child. All of this accumulated, and I had a suicide attempt at the age of 15. And I got sent away for this suicide attempt to a residential facility, which didn't help my mental health whatsoever because I already felt rejected by my family as the black sheep. And when I got home, I spiraled even further. And I got put in dangerous situations because of my mom. I experienced more sexual trauma because my mom failed to protect me. And my mom even told a social worker that I was the reason that she couldn't be happy with her life, which led to even more neglect happening to me. And then she started blaming my stepdad, and he ended up leaving. After that, she began dating another angry man that would yell at her in private. The family liked him, though, because he was a completely different person in front of people. But when he was at home, he would yell at my mom. He would yell at me. He even killed my dog while I was out of town for a family member's funeral with my dad. He ended up kicking me out at the age of 16 because I had asked him to repark his truck that I had parked too close to somebody else when I was learning how to drive. And he got mad at me for this. I ran inside the ice skating rink to my sister in tears. And then this man came chasing me down through the parking lot, calling me every name in the book, and then told me I can find my own ride home. My mom just let it all happen. My mom never defended me. She at least appeared to be happy with this man as they did a lot of traveling together, and she started her own photography business. And he at least spent time with my sister and her children rather than avoiding the family as a whole. This man ended up dying of a heart attack. No surprise, honestly, and you are wound so tightly like that. After he died, that's when Dennis came into the picture. Now, I didn't get to meet Dennis for several years until after my mom started dating him, which I found extremely odd that he never wanted to meet the family or be around the family, especially since he was always at her house. Before I ever even met him, my mom had texted me to tell me that she was scared he would hurt her one day because he had pushed her into the cabinets in the kitchen and had hurt her. But she was scared that he would hurt her further. My mom started smoking cigarettes again. She began drinking again. My mom even started smoking weed. She showed me a handgun that she ended up purchasing. She told me that she bought it for personal protection because you never know when you might need it. And my mom had never owned a handgun the entire time I was alive. But once she started dating this man, she bought a handgun. I finally met him when my mom had been keeping my dogs for me after I had gotten away from my own domestic violence situation. When I showed up at the house, my large Labradoodle was not acting right. He ran to me, excited to see me, but he wasn't happy. He immediately, like the whole time he was running towards me, he was just looking behind his back, like he was on edge and expecting someone. His tail was tucked. When he got to me, he hid behind my legs and was like peeking out, making sure he wasn't followed. My dog has never acted like that before. I went inside and I met Dennis. And as we're watching the TV, he starts asking me like inflammatory questions, trying to argue with me. And I eventually asked my mom why she's with him. And she just stared at the floor, couldn't respond. And this man started verbally abusing me. And I started begging her to leave him, that she deserves better than that. And he just starts going on about how she'll never leave me because she knows she's not going to do better than me. And my mom just sat there and cried. People do not understand how narcissistic abuse completely destroys your self-esteem and your confidence within yourself. They don't understand how malignant it is until they go through it themselves. And I recognized it because I had started to go through it as an adult as well in my own personal relationships. I didn't quite realize that I had gone through it in my family yet. After meeting him, I didn't have a relationship with her hardly at all because I was hurt knowing that she was being abused, and I was struggling with the weight of my own trauma. I lashed out at her a couple of different times about the sexual trauma that I experienced as a result of her neglectful parenting. And she began apologizing to me. And that's when I started to understand that my mom was also a victim of trauma. We didn't mend our relationship until I ended up asking for help because I was back on the verge of wanting to end my life. And during my voluntary hospital stay, I got assaulted during transport and it left me nearly paralyzed. I had to have spinal surgery. My mom blamed herself for what happened because she was the one that had taken me to the ER. And I have a feeling that she blamed herself because of other times when she didn't protect me when I was younger. After this hospital stay, we started to get closer to each other, and she started helping me a lot more than she had for like the previous 10 years of my life, other than watching my dogs that one time. And my papa wrote her a check to convert a shed into a tiny home on my uncle's property for me. And she would sneak me money and tell me not to tell anybody that she gave me money because it would get back to Dennis, and Dennis would be very angry to know that she gave me money. In the months leading up to her moving out to New Mexico, she was living with my Nana, and she would make Dennis's plate every night. He would make degrading comments about her and her cooking. He once told my Nana that men should be allowed to smack around a woman that doesn't listen. All of the warning signs of my mom being abused were there. And I was the only person that could acknowledge any of them because abusive behavior had been so normalized within my family that it was completely ignored. I had a bad feeling when she said that she was moving to New Mexico. I even asked her if I could move with her, and she told me that Dennis and I would not like living together. When I got the phone call from my sister that she was missing, I already knew that he had hurt her. I had this horrible sinking feeling in my gut that I tried really hard to talk myself out of, that maybe she's okay. But in my heart, I knew she was gone. I wasn't really aware of what narcissistic abuse was until I hit my adult years. I always thought abuse was just, physical or sexual abuse, but emotional abuse is just as damaging and just as harmful. I learned to recognize the abuse and the neglect that was happening within my family. And my mom died because she wasn't able to do this until it was too late. She wasn't able to recognize that she was being abused until it was too late. My mom carried a lot of trauma from her upbringing, from her relationships, even her relationship with me. She didn't believe that she was worth more than the way that that man treated her. She was taught that responding with anger was completely normal, just like I was. She was taught that she's below men and that she should be subservient to men. She was taught that she shouldn't speak up, and she was taught to pass it on to her children, just as her parents had passed it on to their children. All three of them have mental health issues. My mom had mental health issues, and both of her siblings have mental health issues, whether they want to admit it or not. They do. My mom wasn't a perfect parent. She didn't know better. She did what she thought was best from what she was given. I don't say any of this to speak badly about my grandparents or my mom. It's just the truth of my experience and what I witnessed. I love them regardless of the trauma and pain that has been inflicted upon me and that I have endured being in this family. It wasn't all bad either. I have plenty of happy memories with my mom and my grandfather too. It's not all black and white. And that's the thing with narcissistic abuse, is it's not always bad. That's one reason why it's so hard to leave, because it's like you're interacting with two different people. You think that this ugly side of them is not the true them, because they also have this really great side to them too. For me, justice is not just Dennis getting sentenced. The problem goes a lot deeper than just what he did to my mom. Justice is acknowledging how all of this came to happen to begin with, and actually working towards finding a solution towards it. That doesn't happen without the truth of what happens within our family coming out into the light. There's so many dirty family secrets. My mom deserves to have her pain acknowledged, her pain that was ignored for so long that led to what happened to her. And that's the reason why I'm speaking out, because I want to break the generational trauma. It's not normal. Families that love each other do not treat each other the way that my family has treated me, my sister, even my mom. On my uncle's birthday, he was screaming at my mom and my grandmother over the phone about money. That's not healthy. That's not normal. My aunt drinking her life away and then blaming my sister and I for distancing ourselves to heal. That's not normal. It's not healthy. That is not love. Blood does not equal family. Family is what you make of it. And I do not exist to beg people to love me. And I do not exist to be someone's punching bag just for some false love. My mom was the punching bag of the family, and she still loved her family, and look at what they've done to her even after her death. It's not going to be me. I'm rising above it. Thank you so much for listening. Justice for Karen Brown.